Good morning. Welcome to Coffee and the Word. Excuse me, I guess I should have cleared my throat a little better. Welcome to Coffee and the Word as we're going to continue in Psalm 68 today. Have you guys ever had one of those days when you just can't quite seem to get things rolling? I'm kind of having one of those days. Sit here and read something and I'm just like, I need to get going. Haven't had enough coffee yet. That's the whole problem. Someone tried to tell me the other day to eat an apple first thing in the morning. That's better than coffee. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'm having my coffee. I do love apples, though. Today we're going to finish up Psalm 68. We've been 2 days on it. We're going to spend one more day here. We're going to pick up on verse 19, and we're just going to read through the end, and then we'll come back and discuss a few things here in this last section. So verse 19, we've hit all 3 days because it's such an important verse. And I've included it in all 3 readings. So clear my voice again, and here we go. Psalm 68:19. Blessed be the Lord who daily bears our burden, the God who is our salvation. Okay, now stop right there. Blessed be the Lord who daily bears our burden. We've read this for 3 straight days now, so at least 3 days we should have been giving our burdens to God. Now, we need to be reminded of that thought every day because it says daily. But we've had at least 3 days now that we've read this. Now, I shouldn't have to come back to you and read this to you every day, but if I need to, somebody send me a message and I'll put this in every day's broadcast because it's so important for us to know that we need to give the junk to God, the burdens, the things that weigh us down, the things that stress us out. We need to give that to God and let Him take care of it. Okay, here we go. Blessed be the Lord who daily bears our burden, the God who is our salvation. God is to us a God of deliverances, and to God the Lord belong escapes from death. Surely God will shatter the head of his enemies, the hairy crown of him who goes on in his guilty deeds. The Lord said, I will bring them back from Bashan. I will bring them back from the depths of the sea, that your foot may shatter them in blood. The tongue of your dogs may have its portion from your enemies. They have seen your procession, O God, the procession of my, They have seen, I'm going to sneeze, excuse me. Feel it coming. I had too much pepper on my breakfast pizza. They have seen your procession, O God, the procession of my God, my King, into the sanctuary. The singers went on, the musicians after them, in the midst of the maidens beating tambourines. Bless God in the congregations, even the Lord, you who are of the fountain of Israel. There is Benjamin, the youngest, ruling them, the princes of Judah in their throng, the princes of Zebulun, the princes of Naphtali. Your God has commanded your strength. Show yourself strong, O God, who have acted on our behalf. Because of your temple at Jerusalem, kings will bring gifts to you. Rebuke the beast in the reeds. The herds of bulls with calves of the peoples, trampling underfoot the pieces of silver. He has scattered the peoples who delight in war. Envoys will come out of Egypt. Ethiopia will quickly stretch out her hands to God. Sing to God, O kingdoms of the earth. Sing praises to the Lord. It's going to happen. Oh, there it is. No, I'm better. Thank you. To him who, somebody out there just blessed me, I know. To him who rides upon the highest heavens, which are from ancient times. Behold, he speaks forth in his voice, a mighty voice. Ascribe strength to God. His majesty is over Israel, and his strength is in the skies. O God, you are awesome from your sanctuary. The God of Israel himself gives strength and power to the people. Blessed be God. Great verses. I love these verses. There's some language in here that I don't like, that I know is true, but I don't like. When we start up here, we're talking about this God of salvation and those great verses that we had there in 19 and 20. The God who gives us deliverance, the God who helps us escape from death. Great stuff. Then David gets into talking about God's revenge upon those who are his enemy. And it's a reality. I don't deny that it's a reality, it's a truth, but it's not something I like to read and think about. That your foot may shatter them in blood, the tongue of your dogs may have its portion from your enemies. There's some people I don't like, but I don't really want my dogs eating them. Okay? And I don't mean that because, I mean, I don't hate them to the point that I want them to be killed and have my dogs eat them. Almost sounded like my dogs were too good for them. I want to make sure you guys understood what I was saying there. But anyway, this is David, and you got to remember his mindset. He's a king, leader of a nation. He's a warrior. He's been confronted by physical enemies who have tried to take his life for much of his life. From the time he was a boy, he fought with bears and wolves and lions and such, remember? And then he fought Goliath, and then King Saul came after him, and so he was on the run from King Saul. That it seemed like after King Saul that there was always somebody from the surrounding countries or even from within his own nation, even later in his life from within his own family, pursuing him, physically pursuing him to kill him. So you can kind of see his mindset, and it's not, again, one that I realize is a reality, but not one that that pleases me to read about. Okay, just put it that way. Okay, and then he goes on and talks about the evil ones. Everyone has seen your procession, O God, and this great procession of my King, my God, my King, into the sanctuary. Excuse me. And this is kind of cool. It talks about the singers. The singers go on. The musicians come after them. And in the midst of all of that, the maidens are beating tambourines. And this is a celebration. Remember, David is one who loved instruments, who loved singing, who loved, he played the harp himself. He played it to calm King Saul. If you remember, that was one of the first things he did in King Saul's court. He loved music, and he loved celebration. You remember when David successfully brought the Ark of the Covenant up to Jerusalem. Remember, there was one attempt that was unsuccessful because David and the priest who went with him had done it all wrong. They had tried to load it on a cart instead of carrying it with the poles, with the specific Levites that were supposed to carry it. They had not obeyed God's instruction, and it failed. You remember Uzziah reached up to steady the ark as it was about to slip off the cart, and he died instantly because no one was supposed to touch that. And then when David studied this out, and with the priests, they figured out the proper way to go get the ark and bring it into Jerusalem, and they did it the proper way that God had prescribed to them. You remember David danced in the street and celebrated in the street, and his wife says, "Oh, you are embarrassing me. You are an embarrassment to this country because you're out there dancing around, and your skirt tails are even flying everywhere, and people are seeing things they shouldn't see, and you're embarrassing me." And he says, I'll be even more delirious than this if necessary to celebrate what God has done for us. So David, talking about this procession of singers and musicians and tambourines, this would really be like David. I mean, it would not be at all uncommon to David to have this great celebration of God. So, I find it somewhat comical that there would be churches who would want to exclude the instruments from the celebration of God. I'm not condemning them. I just find it kind of comical when you read this language like this from David. 26. Bless God in the congregations, even the Lord, even the Lord, you who are of the fountain of Israel. And he says, all of you who are Israel. And he doesn't name every tribe, but he names some tribes there. Then he names Benjamin, the youngest, ruling them. And of course, he's talking about himself, King David. Princes of Judah, princes of Zebulun, princes of Naphtali, and of course he could have mentioned a lot of others, but he didn't, as far as the tribes. Excuse me. Then he talks about God's strength. Your God has commanded your strength, and then he says, God, show your strength. And then he goes on and talks about the temple, and this is kind of interesting, because this says this is a Psalm of David, and remember, David didn't get to build the temple. He wanted to, but God said, no, you don't. I didn't ask you to build me a house, and what we'll do is your son will build me that house. And so the temple was built under Solomon. And so I haven't studied all. This says exactly a Psalm of David, but I haven't studied this to see if there's any theories about whether this was written at any other time, maybe after the temple was built. But anyway, maybe this is again looking forward to, prophetic writing, and I haven't studied enough to tell you that. That's what I think it is. It's David looking forward, and prophetically speaking, because you're going to build this temple, because the temple is going to be here in Jerusalem. Kings will bring gifts to you. And it goes on and talks about rebuking the beasts and the reeds and scattering the people who delight in war. And then it says there will be envoys who will come out of Egypt, and Ethiopia will quickly stretch out its hands to God. Talking about because of the temple, because of the establishment of the temple and the worship of God in Jerusalem, that there'll be nations from all over that will reach out to there. Now, isn't this really unique? No, not at all. It's very prophetic that now it's like the center of world current events centers around Israel, and we think about the different religions and nations that have sought to control that area, and that within Jerusalem, of course, there are Christians, Jews, Muslims, and now I just found out yesterday, I didn't know this until I was studying a little bit about the Baha'i faith that started in Iran. They now have their headquarters in northern Israel. Go figure. That everybody that has anything to say about God or a God, they end up coming to Jerusalem. That God is drawing them all there, and surely will reveal himself as the one true God, and is revealing himself as the one true God through Jesus Christ. But this prophetic statement that because of God establishing himself in Jerusalem, that all the nations would come and be drawn to that. And really, that's the way it is right now, that everybody in the world, when we think about, it seems like when we think about any world incident, it's like, even us as the United States, it's like, how's Israel going to react to this? What's Israel's next move? And God's put our focus there. Okay. Then we get into praise again to finish up the psalm. Sing to God, O kingdoms of the earth. Sing praises to the Lord. Again, ascribing to everyone to sing, the whole world. To him who rides upon the highest heavens, which are from ancient times. Behold, he speaks forth with his voice, a mighty voice. And it is a mighty voice. We know this is this great voice that spoke everything that is into being. And it's the same great mighty voice that declared to John the Baptist, this is my son in whom I am well pleased. The power of God's voice and the power of his word that he left us is beyond everything else. It overpowers everything else. Ascribe strength to God. Yes, we do. We ascribe strength to God. I believe, God, that you are that strong. His majesty is over Israel. His strength is in the skies. Oh God, you are awesome from your sanctuary. And remember, we so flippantly use that word in the American language today, but awesome was originally intended to be used as speaking of God, because this is something that puts you in awe. The universe, the starry skies, the world around us, the way the human body works, taking in oxygen and putting out carbon dioxide that the trees need, and then the trees take in our carbon dioxide and they put out oxygen, and it's just like, wait a minute, slow down. I can't take all this in. How magnificent you are, God. How awesome you are. The God of Israel himself gives strength and power to the people. Blessed be God. What a great psalm. There's so many good things in there, and I hope you've pulled some of that today from that. Again, we go back to that hinge verse in here, verse 19. Blessed be the Lord who daily bears our burden, the God who is our salvation. You know, all this talk about God leading up to this and all the talk about God going away from this center around this verse, that we recognize this great God who will take care of the enemies, this great God who will establish himself in Jerusalem, this great God who lives on high, this God who has all strength, who empowers us, that he loved us enough to bear our burden, our sins on the cross, die for us, and die to give us salvation. The God who is our salvation. Great stuff. But we're going to move on. We spent 3 great days in Psalm 68, and we're going to move on to Psalm 69 tomorrow and see what we do. 36 verses. Let me see. I don't know if we'll make it or not. Save me, O God, for the waters have threatened my life. This should be really interesting. See you tomorrow. Have a great day. God bless you. By all means, finish your cup of coffee. Eat an apple if you need to. But finish your coffee. And jump down some bunny trails in the Bible. What have you read today that might spur you to learn more about God and to learn more about the Bible? Take off on some of those trails. Read some more. Read anywhere in the book. Take some of the names that we read today, the tribe of Naphtali or Zebulon, and just do searches on them. Benjamin, Judah. Read what the Bible says about singers and musicians. Just go off on bunny trails and discover God's great word and what he has to say to you today. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great day. God bless you.